Okay, I think I figured out why people think Andromeda wasn't good, when in reality, it's actually really good. There are some legitimate complaints and problems, I won't deny that, but everything got blown way out of proportion. I'm not going to argue about the bugs at launch, and no one is denying the game wasn't done. I do think it got blown out of proportion, especially when other games with similar issues aren't attacked so viciously, and those technical issues have been solved with updates, but I do understand the disappointment many people had at launch. But I'm making this video to talk about the story and writing, not the technical issues. So first of all, I think a lot of people's opinions were influenced by others. This is a common thing in humanity, where you just want to go with the crowd, or with celebrities you like or something. I'm guilty of this too. It's natural for humans. But I think it's important to be aware of. So I think that's where a lot of the hate came from. It was like a snowball effect. But why did people not like it to begin with? Well, I've thought about it a lot, and I think I have the answers. When I first played it, it took a lot of getting used to because it was quite different from the trilogy, and it is a very unique game. I assumed people didn't like it because it was so different, and tried to say it was bad because it wasn't what they were used to. That is probably true for some people. Like, have you ever taken a drink of something that you thought was one beverage and it ended up being something else? I did that once where I thought I had picked up a glass of iced tea, but had actually picked up a glass of soda. I took a big sip and spit it out thinking it was terrible, and I was really confused for a second until I realized what happened. It didn't matter that I liked the soda. I thought it was bad iced tea. So I think what happened with Andromeda is something similar. Not the same, but similar. For other people, specifically who complain about the story, I still can't wrap my head around it. Like, even understanding the reasons people don't like it, I can't imagine not liking the story. There are things about it I don't like, but as a whole, I love it. Same thing with the original trilogy. It is paced differently than the games that came before, and it's not in the same culture as the Milky Way. And the characters are for the most part younger and still figuring things out for themselves, instead of the more grown and independent characters from the original trilogy. They have arcs, and they change and develop along with Shepard, but the fact that these characters are younger means they develop in a different way. And again, people weren't ready for that. And the way the game tells the story is different from the original trilogy as well. The presentation wasn't always great. I think people often confuse presentation with the story. A story can be really good, but if it's not told in the best way, people often won't see the true quality. Like, a movie can have a great script, but poor direction can make it seem bad. I can admit the presentation probably should have been reworked in certain areas. Not entirely, there's just a few scenes that stand out to me. Although even then, I think it is still much better than a lot of other games I've played. But when I ask people what they didn't like about the story, the answer is usually incredibly vague, like even they don't know. Most people I talk to say the writing sucked, with no details of what they're talking about. Some of them try to point out plot holes or incontrivancies that don't actually exist. They usually make total sense and are explained in the story. It's like they made up their mind and then are looking for anything to justify that view after the fact. So it's these things that I think shocked people when they picked up this game, still used to the trilogy they fell in love with, and just thought it was bad because it wasn't what they expected. Like picking up iced tea and it actually being soda. Doesn't matter how good the soda is if you were expecting something else. But there's another reason beyond those, beyond just the shock of the new direction or presentation lacking in key moments. And the reason is going to take a minute to explain. So back in the day when it was first released, there was a YouTuber I liked, and I'm not going to name names, but this person talked about how they loved Mass Effect and was excited to see Andromeda. But then it came out, and they documented themselves as they played through the game, talking about their feelings and what was going on. And they talked about how they never really got hooked the way they did on the original trilogy. Like they had to keep playing. They kept waiting for the game to really take off and grab their attention, but even after reaching Kadara, that hadn't happened for them. And if it wasn't Mass Effect, they wouldn't have even made it that far. I think this is how a lot of people felt. Just detached and uninterested. And it's okay if you felt that way. Maybe for some people, the shock I talked about before had something to do with that. But it also could be just that Andromeda simply didn't grab them. And so I think the way people rationalized that was thinking it was a bad game for not hooking them the way the original trilogy had. And that's a logical fallacy. Let me explain. Borderlands and Borderlands 2, I played, or rather I tried to play them, alone and with friends, and the games just never grabbed me. I couldn't feel invested. I wanted to like them, I just didn't. But I still recognize that they are good games with a lot of effort and quality work put in. They just weren't for me. Another example is Red Dead Redemption, which I played all the way through, and I do have specific issues with the story. But again, although I don't like the game, I recognize that it's a good game. I'm not attracted to Hugh Jackman, but I recognize that he is an attractive guy. And so I think the reason people think Andromeda isn't good is because A, it was very different for the franchise, and they hadn't played many other games like it, and B, they just didn't feel grabbed by it the way they may have in the original trilogy. And so people unconsciously thought that these reasons must have stemmed from Andromeda not being good. Not liking it is perfectly reasonable and understandable, but that doesn't make it bad. So if you honestly do think it's bad, I implore you, try thinking about why you feel that way. For your own sake, get to the heart of it. Is it the presentation? Do you just not feel connected to the characters or the events? Again, the story is different, the culture in universe is different, and the characters are handled differently. So try to understand what it is that makes you dislike the game. And remember, there's a difference between disliking a game and a game that isn't good. To say the writing is poor across the board is pure nonsense. So I want to say a few things to wrap this up. I think people have this idea in their heads of what Mass Effect is and should be, and many seem unwilling to expand that. Not change it, but expand it. For me, Mass Effect is about choice, mystery, character, and society. For me, Andromeda has all that in abundance and delivers it in a satisfying way, just a different way than the original trilogy. The presentation may have left a lot to be desired, but what makes Mass Effect is still there. And that may not be true for everybody, and that's okay. But you can't blame the game for being different than what you want. There is no one to blame. Maybe it just wasn't for you. Not everyone likes cinnamon donuts. That doesn't make them bad donuts. Not everyone likes Andromeda, and that doesn't make it a bad game or even a bad Mass Effect game. Maybe it just wasn't for you. There are critiques to be made, sure. There are with every game. But I think we have to be mindful of our own opinions and why we feel the way we do. I think we need to keep open minds and be open to new ideas and treat people with respect even if we don't agree. And if you're going to argue a piece of art is bad, be it a movie, book, game, whatever, you have an obligation to be ready to explain your stance. If you don't have an argument to make, don't try to argue it. So here's where I'll wrap this up. Be sure to leave a comment with your own thoughts. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and share this video on whatever social media you use. I think there are some important messages in here about mindfulness and respect. And in general, guys, spread positivity wherever you can. Be the reason someone smiles today. So that's it for now, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to comment and like. I'll see you later.